Welcome, everyone. We'll just give everyone a few minutes to jump on. While we're getting started, we will share a poll. So I'll get that up for you now. You should see that on your screen.
And once you've answered that poll, if you want to pop in the chat where you're joining from today and your name, that'd be awesome so we can see where we have people from today.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining. Hey, James, David, Louise. Thanks for jumping on, and can see from the poll, might share those results with you now. We've got a bit of a range of team sizes with us, which is really good to see. So hopefully as we go through the slides today, we'll be able to help you out in terms of how to use AgriWebb in the best way and some tools around workforce management for different team sizes. Cool. Well, we might get into it. So first up, before we start, I want to just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and future. And today we're going to run through, as I mentioned, focus around workforce management and product updates, recent and also a few that are coming soon. So first of all, we'll start around the calendar and the livestock activity. Then we'll look at tasks, the farm map, user management, and then we'll also just give a little bit of a sneak peek into some of the grazing pieces that we're focused on. And then we'll also have a Q&A at the end. So as we go through today, as usual with our webinars, feel free to put any questions into the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom, and we'll answer them if they're relevant as we go through, and we'll also have the Q&A at the end of the session. So today you will see both myself and Stacey on the call. So we're both from the product team here at AgriWebb, so focused on really listening and understanding all of the customer feedback that you guys provide and funneling that through into new improvements and constant updates into the product. So I guess first up around the farm calendar. So the calendar was introduced to AgriWebb last year and has been used by many producers to help themselves and their teams get across activities happening on farm. So with lots of moving parts, it can be difficult to stay across everything. So the calendar was really introduced to be that visual overarching tool where you can see everything that's going on. So in the calendar, you can see your tasks, your farm notes, your livestock records and your rainfall records as well. And it can be a really good way to make sure that you've got everything in there that has actually happened. You can adjust and delete things straight from the calendar as well. And I guess one thing to call out for the calendar is that you can utilize these filters on the left-hand side here that you can see on the web. They are on the mobile as well if you click that little filters icon, but you can select specific users and team members to see what different activities and say tasks are assigned to those users, so you can do your planning and all those pieces, which can be helpful, particularly for slightly bigger teams. As I mentioned, this is available on both the web and the mobile app. So if you haven't seen it before, it's behind the menu, and then you can see the calendar under there on the mobile. And then from the web perspective, you kind of get that full visual view. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of the farm notes planning side of things. So the farm notes that we have in AgriWebb are really a great way to track upcoming events and team management, kind of like a farm planner. So you can do those in the future, you can do them historically as well. And then they can kind of be used in conjunction with tasks, which I'll dive into a little bit more soon. But farm notes can really be those sort of big events that are happening, or even small ones as well. But for example, things like harvest starting, preg scanning, or maintenance repairs that are due on machinery and equipment. They can also be really a great way to help with sort of just your general team management as well. So putting in holidays and when staff are on leave, just so that people have visibility. Everyone who has access to AgriWebb has visibility over what those different team members are doing. The other one I wanted to call out for the calendar is around the livestock records. So this is a recent update that we made probably a month ago now, and it was introducing the ability to see all of your mob livestock records. So we did have this already for individual management plans, but it's a new one for mob plans. So essentially you can come on here, you can see all of your different records. There's a little bit of a caveat on that some, including movements, weaning and marking, aren't quite yet on the calendar as we haven't upgraded those, but they'll come over time. But you can come in here, you can filter by those particular records, and you can, as I said before, kind of edit, delete, view all of the details, just to see that everything's happened. You can also create records from there as well if you're seeing that something's missing that you know that you did yesterday. So this is just an example. If I click on one of those records, for example, the preg scan, I can see the details of which mobs were included and all of the details of that as well, and edit from there. And just to call out kind of one example of Hannah, one of our customers who was on a webinar not long ago, and she was talking about how they use the calendar in their operation. And I think she said, having so many people moving across the operation, the calendar is a great way to make sure everyone has visibility across the tasks that need to get done across the week. So I said, really that visual tool, bringing everything together. So I'll move on to the livestock activity. So similar to the calendar, really a great way for all of the different team members to come together and visualize what's been happening on farm. I'd say the livestock activity, while available both on the web and the mobile, I'll get to the web shortly as that's a recent update. But really the mobile activity is a really effective way to, in particular, look at recent records that have been done, and also look at, say, categories of records that have been done as well. So if you're wanting to look for something out in the paddock, specifically, you can come to this mobile livestock activity list, and you can see whether, someone's already done that record already, or whether it's something that you did yesterday or last week, and you're wanting to find that quickly and adjust something or add more information. So just to call out here, I guess those two different activities that we've got there for mob plans, it's your mob activity. For individual plans, it's just called your activity, but same sort of concept where you can come in and filter by different categories and find the records that you're after. For individual management plans, where you've got your live sessions from when you're running them in the yards, you can also come to your activity, filter by live sessions, and you can easily find them and view the summaries from those sessions in the yards as well. One other one that I wanted to call out for the livestock activity, particularly on the mobile, which we get quite a lot of questions about on our mob plans, is it's a really great way to come and adjust records for mobs that are off farm. So for example, you've sold a mob and you want to record that they've moved off farm, but you don't yet have kind of all of the sale information, the prices, everything that you're wanting to record in AgriWebb. And so to add in more detail later, since that mob is now off farm and won't appear in your mob list, you can come into the mob activity and filter by purchase and sales, as you can see in that middle slide. And then you can find that sale that you're after, edit and update the information there. So that's just a handy trick if you are kind of looking for one of those mobs that's moved off farm, but you're still wanting to record some information for your reporting purposes. And as I mentioned before, we have recently launched the livestock activity on the web for mob plans. So again, this one has been available on our individual animal management plans for a little while, and we've received a lot of positive feedback that it's a great way to kind of view all of your records in one place. We know we get feedback around, lots of people do like to use the desktop for particularly some of those more in-depth records like your sales and your purchases and your transfers, where you do want to kind of record everything on the web as opposed to on your mobile app. So this is a great place to be able to come and see all of that history and activity and adjust things or review things from there. Similar to the calendar, the movements, weaning and marking aren't yet available on the web activity, but you can still see those on the mobile, and same as the calendar, we'll get those on there over time. So we might move on to the task section now, and as kind of go through this, I might just also put up another poll that we had around tasks. So really just wanting to understand how often do you use AgriWebb tasks at the moment, and if it's not often, then hopefully with some of these things that we'll go through today might kind of inspire you to get in there and give them another go. So yeah, we'll leave that up for a minute, and then Stacey can share the results shortly. So I guess I wanted to start with tasks. Task management is really that kind of core workforce management tool that we've got in AgriWebb. And so it really is a great tool for teams really of any size, even if you're a team of one who are looking for a to-do list, it's a great centralized place for that. But particularly if you've got, more than one member using AgriWebb, and it's can keep everyone on the same page. So one aspect of tasks that I think always comes up as a question from customers is, we might just share those results actually of that poll. So then that's out there for you guys. But one question really is around GPS tasks on the map. So this is a bit of a hidden one sometimes, and people don't often know about it, even if they've been using AgriWebb for a while. So if you are wanting to record a specific location of a task, the best way to do that is to create them from the map. So if you're on your farm map and you make sure that you're on the tasks mode in the top, then you can come in there, you can make sure that you've got your GPS location turned on. So two indicators of that are obviously your blue little nav, and then also the GPS finder in the bottom right. If you are on your phone now at home and you can't see those things, then you'll need to make sure that you go into your settings and you enable your GPS tracking, which will look like this little toggle at the top here. So once that's on, you'll have your GPS location, and then you can easily create your tasks from the farm map. So there's two ways of doing it. Either if you are in the location of where you want to have that task dropped, then you simply can just add you can just simply press the plus button in the bottom right. And so that will pop up the task form where you can fill in all of the information as usual. And then when you hit save, it'll appear on where your nav, where your GPS location is. Or alternatively, if you're not actually in that point, but you can see it's just down fence line or wherever it is, then you can press and hold on that point on the farm map, and that will, same sort of flow, you'll fill in all of the details, and then it'll drop that task in that location. And if you need to adjust later, you can always drag and drop that task on the farm map as well to be able to get it a bit more exact. One other thing I wanted to call out here was we've got the coordinates that show up here on the task details. So this is something that we introduced as a way to get back to the farm map if you're accessing your tasks from the list. So if you're on the normal task list and you come in and you can see these coordinates, then you can click on them. They're a little hyperlink, and basically that'll take you to the map and show you where that task is located. So just another way to help you navigate around and get to that specific task location.
Yes, Malene's just raised her hand. I might just take her off mute for a second just to see if she has a question. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Malene, did you have a question there that you wanted to ask? You'll just have to unmute yourself.
I did. I'm sorry, Jess. I've just come in late. I
got
in late, sorry. Would you mind just running through how you got that screen up with the map to do the tasks? If you could, we could go back one slide.
Yeah.
Because
this one here on the
left. Yeah. So I've got. Sorry, everyone, for being a pain and making you go back, but just
All right. I'm sure someone else has got the same question.
Yeah.
Just to get onto this one. So if you're on the farm map, just make sure that you can see the livestock paddocks and task mode at the top. Just make sure that you've flicked across to the tasks mode.
Right. Yes. Now I see it.
And then that'll strip out all of your livestock and other landmarks on there. And then if you've created tasks already, they'll appear on that view. And if you
want to add a new one, you press the green plus down in the bottom right.
Yeah. So either you press the green plus if you're in that location and it'll drop it where you are, or you can press and hold anywhere else on the farm map, and that'll also trigger the task form where you can fill in the details and it'll pin it in that location.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jess. That's all clear now.
You're welcome. All good. Thanks for the question.
And just a reminder as well, if you have any questions as we go through, pop them in the Q&A as well, and we'll get to them too.
Perfect. So we might move on to the next one here. So this is a really exciting feature that's been in development at AgriWebb the last little while, and essentially it's our most requested feature, and so we're really excited to be able to get it out to you guys soon. So really being able to add photos onto tasks is just another tool in your kind of toolbox to help with communication within your team and to help better track kind of your to-do lists in AgriWebb and things that need to be done. And I think, as many customers have said when they've requested this, a picture does really paint 1,000 words. And so rather than having to type out all of the equipment that someone might need or having to call the person who you've assigned the task to, you can leave that photo or a couple of photos there on the task, and then they have the context that they need to be able to complete it. So really with this feature, we'll have the ability to add photos on or offline. So you do need to sync to be able to access, same as with normal tasks, and all the task information, you will need to be online at some point to sync and receive that down. So photos will work in the same way. And then you'll be able to add a photo by either taking it with your camera or choosing from your photo gallery as usual. So I guess a little bit more of a visual into what this one will look like. So same sort of thing that you're used to with the task form, but really you'll just have an option to add an image, and you can use those two different options as I mentioned before. here you will be able to click on these images and view them full size and kind of zoom in and see the details there. And then once you've saved down that task, you will be able to see the task details here and see those images. And as I mentioned, once you and the other users have synced, whoever has access to that task will be able to see those images as well. So I guess in the future, you know, we would look to kind of expand images and attachments to other areas of the product. And I think we sent out a bit of a survey on that in the webinar invite. So might send that out in the follow-up email as well, but just to be able to understand kind of where else in the product it will be useful for you guys to be able to add attachments and images, just to help contextualize these records that you and your team are looking at. And I guess just in terms of tasks and some feedback that we've had there from people, you know, being able to log tasks is awesome because so many people are involved in running the operations. It's all about transparency for us. And that's Mitch at Bullseye Ag. And, you know, hearing that from customers, we do hear that a lot. You know, it's some people are doing all these different things, and communication is really key when it comes down to what needs to be done. So tasks are a really great tool to be able to do that. And so onto the farm map and a few pieces. So obviously there's a lot that you can do on the farm map. So I wanted to kind of highlight a couple of core pieces around workforce management that hopefully can be useful and utilize for you guys. So the first one, I did mention this before, but I wanted to mention it again more in context of just generally on the farm map, and that's your GPS location. So this is a really great way for particularly, I guess, new employees who maybe don't know their way around the farm, or you've got contractors coming on or temporary staff, and they want to know where they are on farm and help themselves get around. And so enabling the GPS tracking just means that it's easier for them to see on farm how they need to go, and they can get around more easily and navigate themselves. So again, make sure that's turned on. If there's any questions on that, we can go through that in more detail at the end. The other one I wanted to mention for the farm map is around some additional landmarks. So we introduced 10 new landmarks at the end of last year, and all based on customer feedback of over time, different things that people were wanting to add in and having to use, you know, different ones for, and it was sort of confusing for the team. So we've added in a whole lot more landmarks, including, you know, hazards and hazard areas, roads, drains, pumps, taps, all of those details that you can then use to communicate with your team, and the team can actually see where those things are. And, you know, you can leave notes on those landmarks as well if things need fixing, or if you need to note that it's been checked and all of those things. So again, just kind of adding another layer to the farm map to help with the different navigating around the farm and communication within the team. And finally, on the farm map topic, I guess wanted to call out the water integration. So kind of an extension on the landmarks piece in terms of being able to have, you know, your rain gauges and your tanks all on your farm map. Wanted to call out the water integrations that we have. So we've got quite a few different water integration partners in our marketplace. And so, you know, FarmBot, Farmo, AgBot, and then a recent one that we've added in is Gallagher. So really you can go into the marketplace on the web app and you can see those different integrations in there. If you've already got those sensors from those different partners, then you can go in and integrate with them, and that's available to all of our plans. So really just helps again with that communication between team members, saving the time going out and having to check the tank or the trough, and, you know, also getting these tools and data into AgriWebb really I guess, saves the team having to flick between different apps on their phone, and they can have all of that in one place.
And just before we move on, Stuart has asked the question, are photos and tasks available now? Did you want to just answer that one for?
Sure, just to call that out. So that one's not available now. That will be coming soon. So we'll keep you posted on that one being available in the product. But yeah, you won't see that yet in your tasks, but coming soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks,
that
Des.
was great. I'll jump in now to go through some user management pieces and then also take you through some of the pieces we have planned around grazing. So first of all, diving into user management, I would assume a fair few people are using this based on the responses earlier in the webinar about the number of staff a lot of people joining us here today have. But just to call out, we have user roles and user management at the moment in the product. If you go into your account settings, you'll be able to select user management, and we have a number of user roles. Jess, if you just jump to the next slide, available today, where you can essentially provide different views of the app to different types of users depending on how they're going to be using the product. This is really good to make things more simple for certain types of users and really just direct their attention to what you want them to be doing, and also to give more access for people that are going to be doing more on farm. The key ones we have at the moment are obviously administrator, generally for the owner of the account, then manager for farm managers that essentially are going to have access to everything besides the billing and for adding new farms, then some different users depending on how people are going to be using the product. So a farm user that gives you access to web and mobile, then specific access for the web or the mobile, and then transfer only that just has access to transfer. We have had a lot of feedback that people want even more flexibility around this. So we've had 109 customer requests, which is a fair bit, not quite as much as we had on user roles, but this comes through all the time, particularly as we're at events. We hear this from people at every event we go to, often when we're conducting customer research or interviews as part of other feature requests. So recently we were chatting to a lot of different customers about the work that Jess was doing on photos on tasks, and this was coming up a fair bit as well. So the kind of key top requests are for around more restrictions, so map only, map and task only, and read only. And you can see on this next slide, lots of different comments. This is only a couple out of the 109, but lots of different feedback that we get from customers. A couple here is the ability to have read-only user access is very important for us. We need users to have access to information, but not the ability to edit. It also enables us to share all information to users that are remote and they can keep up to date with on-ground operations. Some other ones, I want to be able to tag a task to a person and they see the issue located on the map, the farm tracks, location of gates and any major hazards so they can go and do a task. Having the ability to upload a photo, as mentioned elsewhere, would be great, but this person does not need to see my animal numbers, how many I have in each paddock, or any of my other information. So we've definitely taken all this on board and been working on this recently. Again, similar to photos on task, this isn't quite ready, but we're planning to release this very soon. If you jump to the next slide, Jess. So the additional user roles that we're focusing on based on that feedback is map only, which is the first one we're working on, which is coming very, very soon. We're in the last stages of testing at the moment, just making sure it all works correctly. And then as a follow-up to that, we'll be looking at map and task only and then read only. So what we do here is we hide all other pieces of the UI or the user experience. So you can see in this screenshot to the right, this user using map only will only have access to the map and the menu, not the livestock. And like that feedback that came from that customer I read out, the livestock pin changes. So you can see here that animals are in a paddock. If people, are moving around the farm, you want them to know that there's animals in a paddock so they can be careful in terms of gates and everything like that. But you don't want them to see the livestock numbers, being able to see what type of animals in there or the specific age class or anything like that. That's hidden, but we will kind of call out that there's animals in that paddock. A key thing to note here is when you add a new user, you will still have to sync. So they'll have to sync that information down to obviously get access to the map and everything like that. But once they've synced, then they'll be able to see the parts of the product that have been granted access to them, depending on what role is selected. So as we raise sync, the other piece we wanted to call out with user management, particularly important for people that have lots of different users on farm, or really anyone, but particularly important when you have different people updating information throughout the day, is really making sure we're syncing daily and drumming this into, all the different staff and all the different people that are using AgriWebb to record data, or just using it to obviously, navigate their way around the farm for any kind of reason. So kind of one key ask that we have is making sure you enable background sync. You can do this in the settings in the app. And then for iOS, making sure we keep the app open until syncing is complete. If it goes into that sleep mode or lock mode, that can interfere with syncing. This is different to Android, where Android will auto sync when it's connected to Wi-Fi or has that mobile service. So slightly different, but yeah, just making sure, following best practice, always syncing, and that kind of avoids any discrepancies with data if people are kind of recording information when another user that's recorded something previously hasn't synced and everything like that. So really important to maintain good practice there. And yes, just a quote from one of our other customers, Alistair, he said, software programs are like vehicles. Everyone has their own preferences on how they drive or use it. We really have been trying to take this on board recently because we know everyone has different preferences with the settings that you can manage on farm, with the user roles. So, always make sure you're checking out the settings. It's one of the more boring features, or seems more boring, but we are always introducing, more options for people to configure their own account. So pieces like favorite breeds, which has been out for quite a while, but being able to just select your breeds that you have on farm so you don't have to have the huge breed list, always making changes there. So a good one just to check every now and then to kind of make sure you're up to date on what you can configure to make sure that AgriWebb's set up just the way you like it. And now we'll move on to grazing planning, just to give everyone here today a bit of a sneak peek on what we're moving on to next. We've had a big focus the last couple of months on that workforce management, photos on tasks, new user roles, because they're some of the top requested features. Another one that people are always asking us for is more grazing management and grazing planning tools. We've had 102 feature requests, for the features just listed on this slide. So rotational planner, grazing chart, and grazing planner. And these are the top pieces that we're working on at the moment. So the first piece that we're looking at, and I'll go through these in a bit more detail, is the rotational planner. That's starting off with movements only, no food projection. We're also looking at a grazing chart, which is something people are always asking for us about as well, and then bringing in that food or forage requirement into that rotational planner. So being able to kind of let you use those projections to make those grazing decisions and do that grazing planning as well. People may have seen recently, and we've sent out some communications about the State of the Farmer survey that we ran. We did ask people this year, and we had feedback and responses from over 1,000 producers. What are your top priorities for this year? There were 12 different options, and people could kind of nominate what their most important priorities were. And these were the top 3 out of the 12 options we sent out. So that was also really promising. That optimizing grazing planning was obviously up there as one of the top three. Improving animal efficiency, being able to manage your grazing obviously contributes to that. So we're really happy with those results, and it does make us feel like we are on the right track with that information and all the feedback we've been getting from customers through all of those channels that we collect the feedback from. So rotational planner, I'll just go through this quickly. Any questions, again, pop them in the chat and we can get into them in more detail at the end. But essentially this rotational plan is all around forward planning your rotations, essentially. And a key benefit we bring in is being able to identify any conflicts and plan lots of rotations at the same time. So the way you'll be able to do this is jump in and click add to create a rotation. You'll get a modal that pops up and you'll name your rotation, select a start date, select a rotation period, and a default rest period. All of these pieces can be adjusted it as you plan it. And you can either select the animals and mob if they're drafted and you know what animals they're going to be, or you can select that later on when you start your plan. You'll go into planning mode essentially, where you can start selecting paddocks from the list. And then you'll see this kind of, it does look a bit like a grazing chart, but it's not. It's just to help you plan out your rotations, start to populate on the right-hand side, and we'll be able to identify conflicts in those paddocks so you can really easily plan. We get feedback from people that obviously this is one of the, one struggle that they have in terms of having to plan all their different rotations and understand what paddocks are being used, what paddocks are in withholding, all of these different types of pieces of information. So really trying to start making all this forward planning a lot more straightforward. Here again, you can just start to see different conflicts that you might have and where you're repeating paddocks as well, making all of those planning pieces really straightforward so you can plan into the future. And just here again, just another view that when you're kind of in planning mode, being able to move that over to the side so you can get a really good view of your map and kind of see how that rotation is looking, see if you've missed any paddocks and give you that real visual to help you with those planning decisions. The next piece that we'll be working on is the grazing chart report, which again is kind of really reproducing that traditional grazing chart that people are quite familiar with. The first stage of this is just going to be your historical, so you can really see what's happened on farm. And this is what it's going to look like essentially. Jess, if you want to jump in and give any more information there, you can, but just as a little bit of a summary.
Yeah, this is really just where we're starting with the grazing chart. And yeah, Stacey said, looking historically at all of your movements that have happened on farm. So pulling in that data that you're already capturing in AgriWebb, but visualizing it in a way that a lot of you will be used to and are looking for, as well as, I guess, bringing in additional columns, and you can adjust these as well to bring in more data or less data depending on what you're after, but just to contextualize those grazes as well, so that you have that different stocking load and stocking rate and other information as well to contextualize.
Thanks, Jess. And just another bit of feedback we got from that State of the Farmer survey that we recently ran. We asked AgriWebb customers specifically, what are your top 2 requests for new sustainability related features? And, the number 1 was grazing planning functionality. Out of that 1,000 people, 61% had that as their top request. Then we have some for virtual fencing and GPS ear tags. And you can see the list down here. There's some other pieces regarding documenting soil samples and some other pieces that we're not quite ready to start working on yet, but that'll be feedback that we take on board and consider for the future as well. And as part of the follow-up we send to this webinar, we will include a link to the State of the Farmer report. So that's a really great piece of content that our team worked really hard on, and we got lots of feedback from lots of different customers. We're including summarized, not identifiable data, but from AgriWebb with kind of key trends and things that we're seeing. So check that out if you're interested. It's a great piece of content. And then just some top takeaways. So the things to remember, I think, from this webinar to take away with you. Check and update your team's user roles if you're interested in doing that, and keep an eye out for our update when the new map only roles released and some of those additional roles. Making sure you sync daily and everyone in your team syncing. Making sure you're always on the latest app version. We're doing releases multiple times a week normally. Get auto updates on, or make sure you're always checking you're on the latest version, because if not, you could be missing out on really good new features. And remember, you can create tasks from the map using GPS, making sure you jump over to that task tab on the map. They're kind of those top takeaways there. The other thing that we just wanted to call out was our ideas portal and news. So in that left-hand navigation where you can get help, you can either see the news and updates where we kind of release information about all of our new features, and that's where you can kind of get the information about new pieces that are going out. And then also the feedback and ideas. So if you jump into the feedback and ideas, you can leave any sort of feedback, and you can also see what we're working on. And, you know, we really do read every single, Jess and I once a week read through every single comment that comes through along with the rest of the product team. And like you saw today, we really do make decisions based on what people are asking for. So please, if you have any top wants or top pain points or anything like that, jump in, take a couple of minutes to send that feedback over. And we do really, really appreciate it because it helps us make decisions about what we're going to work on next and how we can most help you improve your operation, essentially. So on to the Q&A. There was a question from Peter. I did ask a follow-up. Can we track our employees? I'm not sure if we mean with GPS. We do get quite a few requests for this. You can't track with GPS yet. A lot of people do ask for this, particularly for OH&S reasons, particularly on those bigger properties. But no, that isn't possible at the moment. If maybe you meant track in terms of what different records people are using, the best way to do that is through the activity. There's some different filters there, and you can search by whoever created it and kind of search through what records have been created that day. So that's a good way to be able to look through all the pieces that have been done today and to maybe check if people have synced. You know, if you knew someone was out doing certain tasks today and they're not showing in your activity, it might be kind of a flag to call out to make sure people are syncing. And another question here, at the end of the year, is AgriWebb able to provide a paddock performance report? Around the paddock performance report, I'm not sure exactly what we're looking at. We do have 2 paddock reports that are available on the performance plan. So we've got the essentially load by paddock, depending on the animal load, depending if it's LSU or how you're tracking load, where you can look at stocking rate per hectare, essentially stocking rate per hectare by 100 mil of rainfall and cumulative stocking load. So you can see kind of that performance over the year, and that's broken down by month. So you can see those different stocking rates per hectare for each paddock over each month. And we also have the paddock grazing intensity report that can kind of show you your load, days grazed, days empty, grazing percentage, days since grazed for every paddock. If there's any other pieces that you're looking at, chuck it in the chat as well and we can answer that. Or if you have any feedback about things that are missing out of those reports, it'd be great to hear because they are things that we're going to be looking at as we continue to work on these grazing pieces. Jess, this one might be a good one for you. Christy's asked, are you able to show all new ideas so we can see what others are asking for and then we can vote for new features? I've submitted a number of ideas, but they can't be seen by others.
Yeah, that's a good one, Christy. Yeah, at the moment, we don't kind of automatically show all of the new ideas that come through from different users, but we do try and update kind of in that ideas portal that Stacey shared, having the ideas section updated. Probably do that a little bit more regularly just to get visibility into what other people are requesting. So yeah, we'll definitely look at that, Chrissy, and see what else we can do to kind of expand that list. But yeah, we do put in the ones that are kind of the main requests and things that people have asked for.
Another one from Melanie. Is there capability to put in soil sample results or is that coming? Not yet, and it's not specifically planned, but we are seeing an increased number of requests coming for that. I think as some of the interest in sustainability programs increases, we are starting to see that pop up more. So it's definitely a request that we get. Again, if it's something you want, please jump into the ideas portal and add that one as a request because essentially we're led by the number of customers asking for those sorts of things. Then we've got from David, is it impossible to include horses in the livestock, not so much as economic contributions, but as larger grazing animals and animals which must be kept away from supplementary feeding? Okay, interesting. I hadn't heard of it from that perspective before. We definitely get a lot of feedback to include other species. Goats comes up a fair bit. Horses does come up. At the moment, no, but I think a good consideration as we kind of focus more on the grazing functionality. Not planned at the moment, not possible today, But yeah, a good one again to leave feedback on, and we can continue to consider that if that's something that more and more people are asking for. Another one from Christy here. Are you looking at updating the way you can add birth records? Current process makes it hard to add birth records when working in the yards. We are writing them down at the moment and having to enter them later. Christy, I'm assuming you're using IM, individual animal management here, not mobs. Yes, we are looking at how we update it. It's been under discussion for quite a while. I might make a note if you're happy and include this feedback in our ideas portal. So as we get further along with this, we might reach out to you, but we are looking at how you can kind of add bulk births. But yeah, it'd be good to get a little bit more information exactly how you're wanting to record them when you're in the yards. But we might kind of reach out to you separately if that's okay to get a bit more information. But definitely something on our agenda, 100%. I might just see, I thought there was one other person that might have raised their hand before, but no, can't see that anymore. So must have gone down.
The one just on the paddock performance, Stacey, they've said, by paddock performance, I'm trying to monitor the production of each paddock in terms of the number of stock each has carried through the year. So kind of a stock.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We don't have stock days specifically, and that is something that we're looking at adding, but we do have essentially either DSE, LSU, or load. So you can see that by paddock. I might just quickly share my screen. Jess, if I just kick you off for a second. Where are we? Here we go. So I've either got the paddock grazing intensity here, and sorry, this is just a test farm that I have with very bad data, so apologies, not prepared, but essentially you can see the paddock list here and then the load, and you can essentially adjust the date in the top right hand corner here. So you can do it for, you know, the last 12 months, last financial year, or by month. This is only available on our performance plan, so not on the compliance or essentials plan at the moment. So we can see the LSU days here because I've got my livestock unit set to LSU. You can see LSU days per hectare, days grazed in that paddock over that period, days empty, grazing percentage, days since grazed. And then in the LSU load by paddock, again, this changes depending on what livestock units you have set. Again, you can see a list of paddocks. Scrolled over here, but you can see the area, starting stocking rate, closing stocking rate, average stocking rate, and then broken down by month across here. And again, you can set the date range up the top there in the top right-hand corner. And there's a few different options here. So you can look at stocking rate by 100 mil of rainfall and cumulative stocking load as well. So they're the options that we have at the moment. Again, we do get a fair few requests for just head days as well. And that's something we're looking at as part of the wider grazing focus that we have. But that's not available at the moment. One more here from Christy. We also would, for individual animal management, are you looking at adding the ability to do ENBDs in AgriWebb? At the moment, we don't have the ability to do the ENBDs for individual animal management. It is kind of in the list of requests that we have, but at the moment, not in progress. Neil Doherty, can you show me how to link AdBot? Yes, sure. Let me just get into my account again, and I'll share my screen again. Again, just calling out here, sorry, I don't have a good test account set up here. It's not prepared, so this data may not all be correct, but essentially what you do is you come down to your navigation all the way down to account here, and you'll select AgriWebb Marketplace. And then here you can see all the different integrations that we have available. So the Gallagher water, monitors, FarmBot, and AgBot here. You can click on this and follow the instructions here, essentially. Some of these integrations like SIBO require, essentially it's a paid add-on, so we'll require a purchase that you need to speak to the sales team for, and some of them you can just set up automatically. It does just depend. So jump in here, you can see all the information that you need, and then you can kind of go through those steps to get that activated.
There's one other question from Christy around an annual farm planner is an annual farm planner going to be released for annual tasks that happen every year? At this stage, not planned, but this would be in time an extension on the calendar that I kind of went through earlier. But at the moment, yeah, your farm notes are really that tool to use to be able to do your future events. At the moment, you can't kind of do recurring ones, but yeah, that is a good bit of feedback that we'll definitely consider in future updates.
It's definitely something for longer term customers. You may remember the operational planner, which was kind of one step towards this, but not quite as flexible as most of our customers needed. So we got a fair bit of feedback about people wanting extra flexibility in terms of those kind of annual plans. So definitely something we've considered for a long time and have had a kind of a shot at. But yeah, looking, like Jess said, still into the future and needs a bit more work there. Okay, cool. We've got a couple of minutes left. So any other questions, we'll stay on for another minute or so. If there is anything else in the Q&A that anyone wants to ask or any other clarification, but definitely, feel free to start jumping off. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for all the questions. Please keep sending through any feedback because this is really how we make these decisions about what we're going to work on. And yeah, we really, really appreciate your time today. Any thoughts afterwards, send them through. We'd love to hear them. But yeah, thanks and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Appreciate it.